The tentative ceasefire in the Middle East is holding for now, but remains fragile. It's allowing some aid to trickle into Gaza, but not enough. And as Jonathan Lee reports, talk of famine is fading, but with so many living in tents, winter brings new risks. And a warning some might find these pictures confronting.
At 365 square kilometres, more than 2 million Gazans live in an area half the size of Canberra. War has turned their streets to rubble and ruin. In August, a UN report, controversial, declared parts of Gaza were in famine, a famine worsening. As these pictures now show, the ceasefire is allowing aid to flow more freely. Markets are returning, though this woman says people do not have money. Goods are cheap, but people have no money. Kate Charlton arrived in Gaza 3 weeks ago. The 35-year-old Aussie is a medical coordinator for Doctors Without Borders. She tells me what she's seen.
The reality on the ground is worse than I expected before arriving. The people in Gaza have undergone tremendous suffering. They're grieving, they're traumatised, they have been starving.
She describes the situation as dire.
What we see now is we see a lot of things like carbohydrates, things, simple noodles to make, which is great that we have food, but it's not enough. We're not seeing a diversity of fresh fruit and vegetables. We're not seeing things like meat or eggs or proteins in the market, which is obviously so important. A really big concern is that there are so many people in Gaza with traumatic injuries. And when their nutrition status is affected, it takes so long for their wounds to heal.
The specialist UN-backed report claims starvation was present and rapidly spreading across the Strip. The majority of deaths undocumented and unreported. Not true, says Hillel Neuer from UN Watch. It sees its job as calling out perceived mistruths and biases. It attributes malnutrition-related deaths and confronting images like these to pre-existing health conditions.
I don't think there ever was famine. So there clearly, when there's war, there is food insecurity. The declaration of famine by the IPC report was not justified by their normal standards. And again, according to the metrics of deaths that we are supposed to be seeing, whether it's in a particular part of Gaza or the whole territory, we haven't seen the numbers. They do not bear scrutiny.
The UN-backed Famine Review Committee would ordinarily use a weight to height ratio, creating what's known as a Z-score. The threshold of famine is passed when 30% of those checked are deemed to be acutely malnourished. But the difficulty of a war zone saw the committee use a less preferred and less accurate test, a mid-upper arm circumference measurement. Under the MUAC measurement, the threshold of famine is much lower, at 15%. It also relies on contextual information, using what's happening on the ground to fill in the gaps. Critics argue the committee also relied too heavily on data from hospitals, which was not representative of the broader population.
A lot of people are starving on Gaza, so we have to look at both sides.
Donald Trump said people in Gaza are starving. We need to stop this.
Yes, that's not a professional expert report. That's a statement by the president, and I don't think that he was using a professional determination.
What's undisputed is much of the conflict has existed outside of the public eye. Hamas controls health figures. For 2 years, Israel has prevented international journalists from independently covering the war on the ground. The UN asserts its neutrality. Sky News has requested interviews with the body and its World Food Programme to discuss the contested report and its data collection. But our requests have been redirected and ignored.
The Hamas terrorists planned this war for at least 15 years, and they knew that they were hiding under the civilian population.
Concern is already turning to winter.
We are concerned that people will not be warm enough and there will be, spread of simple colds and flus that will really affect this population.
From a lack of bomb shelters to a shortage of any shelter, as innocent families who want peace start again. Jonathan Lee, Sky News.